What's up, guys? Welcome back. It's a brisk, cool morning, and you know what? Last time we were here, we were getting the siding started. So behind me, you'll see basically that we've come around this building. We've worked up as high as we can reach. Personally, I don't like working off of ladders, so that is why we've got the Mega Deck out. The nice thing about the Mega Deck is we're gonna be able to go up, bring material with us, make our cuts all up in the Mega Deck. So the first thing that I wanna do though is, because now that we're up to window height, we need to do a head flashing detail. So let's go up in the Mega Deck. Let's start this video off with how we flash the top of SmartSide and why we need to do that. All right. So SmartSide, it's a wood product. Anytime you have a wood product that is running horizontal like this, water can come down and sit on it. That's a bad thing. It doesn't matter really what material it is unless it's a PVC or something that's impenetrable. You don't want water sitting on top of your wood trim. So we're gonna do a aluminum head flash. This is a simple, it's just a drip cap. It's gonna sit up top like this, and you could just come in here, cut it, install this, but what we like to do is do an end dam. It's something similar to what we've done in the past on our Versetta stone. So if you guys seen that video, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a square, we're gonna mark a 3/8 inch mark, and the reason we're doing 3/8 is because LP wants you to have a 3/8 gap above all your aluminum flashing. So when we're done with this, you're gonna see where this 3/8 comes in handy. We're gonna take our snips, we're gonna cut this front leg of this flashing, get rid of our hem. And what I like to do is just bend this under. Really what this is doing is just taking away this sharp edge by giving us a nice little hemmed edge. And then we're gonna take our benders, put it on our 3/8 line, and we're gonna bend up. Now, what you'll notice is right here. This now is an end dam, and we didn't cut this. So this is actually closed off. So when we put this up here, and this is done, any water that comes over that's gonna sit up on top of this ledge is not gonna be able to come over and work down the side. All of it is gonna come out over the edge, okay? So this is very important. And what I do is I don't measure this. I'm just gonna hold up here. And then for this side, we'll just make a quick tick mark, and we're gonna do the exact same thing. I think a lot of areas do require an end dam. I never used to do it until I learned some of the good things about social media. People tell you what you're doing wrong. So I was able to learn this, and honestly, I think it's a great idea. It makes perfect sense. Also, Pika pencil, man. It's perfect. People always ask what this pencil is. It's a great trim marking tool because it has a consistent edge, unlike a carpenter's pencil, which sometimes gets inconsistent depending on how dull you get it. We're gonna cut this excess off. You don't want to go too tight into the corner. If you go too tight into the corner, you can rip your aluminum. But if you just keep it loose, it'll bend up nice. And then what we can do is set this on here. Keep my nails as high as possible. There's no reason for them to be low. And then all we're going to do is cap it off with a little bit of seal tape. That way, if any water gets back here, we don't want it just working its way behind the trim, obviously. And remember that 3/8 measurement that I talked about. What's nice now is this is 3/8 tall. So when I come in here and I measure the distance of my cut, because I'm gonna be about right here, it's gonna come up and it's gonna get cut right at the 3 inches, or the 3/8. And now we've got a nice head flashing, and the water's not gonna sit on top of this window. So important thing, make sure any vertical or horizontal surfaces that are flat, that are SmartSide, you cover it with aluminum and gap it 3/8. All right, that's done. Let's keep getting some siding up this wall. And then we're gonna move into the gable, where I'm gonna show you guys how we try to cut perfect gable cuts on both ends and run good siding nice and level. Make sure you squeegee your tape too. Your hand is not a good enough squeegee. Oh wait. There we go. Reference mark. You see that? Can I use my pencil? All right, so from there we'll go and we'll start bringing it in. Nice thing is, you guys remember this story pole It's consistently going to be our layout, making sure that we maintain the exact spacing. And even though we're not using the reference mark, we're using all the different layout marks as an individual reference mark that I can lay out and continue to mark up. So once again, the story pole, it's still valuable even though we're days into siding here. Now what I'm going to do is just measure from the top of this 3/8 cut to my snap line, which were, let's say, 6 7/16. And since I know I bent this at 3/8, if I go 6 7/16, I'm going to be right where I need to be for my cut. I like everything above. All right, something that I don't know that I've talked about is that we're using SmartSide Expert Finish Lap. And what that means is if you've ever done SmartSide, Hardy, a lot of these siding products where these butt joints come together, you need to pan flash behind that joint or caulk it or use an H-clip or something. What SmartSide has done is they've done a half lap joint. So this is basically routed on the back side. This is on the front side. There's a self-spacing little groove there, and what you're doing is you're lapping these over. Now you still have your expansion contraction, but what this does is it negates the need for any sort of pan flashing, caulking, or H-clip, all of which I'm not a fan of, and it makes the install a lot easier. Now this gap here, people have a problem with it sometimes. That's personal preference. This gap doesn't bother me one bit personally. I think a well randomized install with random joints like this, it looks good. It looks like that's how it's supposed to be. I've never seen a seamless one-piece siding. I just don't think that looks really that great. So this is a pretty cool thing that SmartSide did to their siding. Look at that. No damage. These things are just awesome. Hey, is that the next long one? Yep. Okay. Let me see that bad boy. What is this, 15 foot, 4 inches? Something like that. And a lot of times it's just Greg and I, obviously. So I'm up here doing the install. Greg is doing the cutting. And something I don't think talked about yet is one of the most handy tools to have when running SmartSide, and that is this Gecko gauge. Now this is an old version. I'll put a link down below if you guys want to get one of these. They are so handy. Look at this. It pulls out my siding exactly where I need it. Comes right out of your siding. You can just go ahead, tuck it underneath there. It clamps in, and it's going to be your third hand so that you can install this long siding all by yourself. You don't need an extra person. Pretty sweet. Okay, so now that we're getting into the gable, I've got my snap line, I've got my Stabila digital angle finder, so I can confirm level, which I already know it's level, I just checked. And by putting this in here nice and tight, I'm coming up with a 26.6 degrees. Now, if you know, a 6/12 pitch is 26.57. So I think that we are close enough. Everything is good. What we're going to do is we're going to use a 6/12 pitch, and it should be spot on. If you didn't build the building, if you don't know what it is, when you're doing this sort of stuff, I'm telling you, an angle finder is perfect. When you know your level line, you can come in here and you can confirm the pitch cut of your siding. So that's what we're going to go with, and we're going to start cutting some pitches, and we'll see how it goes. 16, Greg? Let's do it. I don't even need this if I got you, huh? You got me. All right, so this piece here, we got to cut over there. We need an angle, and what I've done is I've just measured this distance here. It's 2 1/4. So then we're going to come up here, and we've got our angle, digital angle finder. I've got my 2 1/4 mark, and we're just going to slide it on the top till we hit that. And there's our line. Now that is what we are going to run our track saw down. And yes, we're going to use the track saw because it makes the cleanest cut very efficiently. And we've learned, don't do your priming or your painting until you've actually had a chance to make sure that it's good, because we make mistakes all the time. It's a little bit short. You know, we've done a couple now, so we feel pretty confident that I can tell you how we do it, because we didn't make any mistakes yet. Well, okay, a couple. We made a couple mistakes. We got things dialed in. And what we've got is our snap lines. Greg is going to hold me on that snap line all the way out where it meets that trim. I'm going to get my exact measurement, 77 and 7/8. Okay, now we got to have our gap on both sides. So Greg is going to cut this down to length. We're going to mark 77 7/8 minus 3/8. Okay, that gives us our gap on both sides. 77 and a half, right, Greg? Having the mega deck, yeah, it's not our building moving, okay? It's the mega deck moving, but it allows us to be up here doing all this work without having to go up and down, back and forth. If I need help with Greg's hands, he doesn't have to be down there cutting. It just works out really nice. 77 and a half. That's the top measurement, and that's the one that we know exact, because that's what we're lining up all of our pieces to, is our mark. I like it, man. Let's go ahead and paint that up. And here's the thing. Greg said our track might have moved a little bit. That's very possible if we're talking about 60/4 or 30 seconds, if it's not a perfect joint. The goal is we need a little bit of a joint, and we need a nice caulk joint. So that's all going to get caulked. It's never going to be seen if it is slightly off. But this just ensures that it's a nice, easy way to get your measurements. You know your angle with an angle finder, and the track saw makes these types of cuts super easy, because I'm not that good of a saw guy, I guess. I don't know. I think it's just better with a track saw.
Easier.
It's easier, and it makes a straighter cut going up an angle. So, yeah, right there. I like it. Okay. Now the nice thing is, as we get closer into the peak, as we get to where we're just using one full piece, if you are off, let's say you're off a 16th, an eighth, or you take the wrong side of your pencil line or mark, whatever, you can just adjust the piece, and as long as you stay level, if you lose a 64th or a 32nd on your lap because you're moving it up just ever so slightly, no one's ever gonna know. It's gonna be one of our better ones right here. You get yours where you like it.
Right there.
So this is a perfect example of, we kept it a little bit long. So we're pretty tight here. What we can do very easily is I can move this down. Okay, you can see my line right here. I'm not even a strong 1/8 away from that line. So Greg can move his down just a hair, and we could run this if we wanted to, which I think up here in a gable is perfectly acceptable. To maintain our nice gappage here.
I think we run right there.
Yeah, I mean, we're within on a 10-foot piece of siding, probably. Actually, you know what? Let's just let's just see, because we can't just, talk about being good and then. Okay, so there you go. This is a perfect example. So we made our cuts. We aren't exactly on our snap line because we're humans and we probably made a poor snap line. You have a little bit of fudge room in a gable because you're dealing with these alternating angles on both sides, trying to fit it into your gable. And sometimes you do your best, and then we're just gonna caulk the rest, guys. So we're not perfect. Right there. I mean, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? So now I need to give myself, and we're just gonna eyeball this at this point because I don't have any more marks, and put that level under there, big dog. And as long as we're good, you like your side?
Yeah, a little right there.
You wanna go up a little more?
Probably right there.
Okay, that's level, and my joints are good. That's all we're gonna do. I can't really get in there. These lines don't line up perfectly, but I'm assuming
4 inches.
Okay, that's our first gable. We got 2 more gables to do. We're gonna get better at it. The good thing is, any of our imperfections in some of these cuts, if they're slightly off, because when you're making an angled cut, if you're off even just, a hair, as that angle goes out, your cut can get off even worse. So, you can be as good as you want to be, but sometimes you got to fudge it a little bit, and then we're going to caulk it. So let's go ahead and go down, Greg. We'll do the caulking later.
Step back and look at it.
Yeah, let's take a look at it, see what it looks like from the ground. I'd buy it. All right, guys, so now that we're done with this side here, we're going to be moving around the corner, and the problem is when we originally laid all this out, we had our story pole. It was all based off of a laser on that side of the building. You cannot put a laser and capture all sides of the building at once. So instead of trying to find exactly where the old reference line is, see, I squared this around from the other side, we're going to use our story pole. We're going to line up the old reference to the old reference line from the other side, and then we went ahead and shot a new, so think about it, on a square, most typical buildings in a square fashion, we put the laser on one corner and we go to the opposite corner, and we only have to move that laser twice to capture everything. So what we've done is we're going to put the old reference line lined up with our story pole. We're then going to, this is the new laser line that we've set up, and we're going to make a new reference line. So this now is going to be the reference line that we will use to lay out the story pole. I'm going to put new. So what we've done is, like if I go down this wall, I marked a random spot where, I don't know, let's just say all the way down here at this door, we've got the new laser line, and we're just going to go ahead and line up, and then this story pole is still going to be consistently used for the rest of this. And what it will do is, as we work around the whole building, the goal is for all the siding to easily line up so we don't have to do any fudge factor when we get to the other side and we realize that we maybe dropped a wall a half inch or a quarter inch or maybe even worse. So with that, we're going to go ahead, we're going to get working on this wall. It's a lot of repetitive, install. I mean, once we get most of this stuff set up, it's just installing siding. So we're going to go ahead and get into that, and we'll go into some nice footage, and then we'll come back when we got a nice tip for you guys or something. Now that we're up here 5 courses, the old reference line, the new reference line, all that little tips and trick I shared, looks like if I step back, everything is nice and lined up. So I guess I didn't even actually double check it. I just trusted that the laser, the reference lines on the story pole were correct. But now that we're 5 courses up, it's a good visual confirmation that we're good. So if everything is correct, now when we go around to the other corner, all the way on the other end, it should line up also. And I guess you guys will have to wait and see. We still got a lot of siding left to do to get there, but I just wanted to show you that it did work out. All right, we've got a spot here, guys, that it's been bothering me a little bit since it came in because I knew it was going to be a struggle, not ideal, and that is this electrical. It was super frozen ground. It was bad conditions when this was done, and I think in a perfect world this would have been done a little bit different, but it is what it is, and we're here to try to make it look as good as possible. The problem is it runs right in the middle of a piece of siding. So it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for us to do this. I'm hoping what we can do is cut this piece, and we're going to have to probably 2-piece this. So what I need to do is make sure that I do some flashing maybe underneath so that any moisture that comes down here, this is all sealed, but I don't want it to continue to go behind the siding. So if we flash the top of this first piece and then do a joint here, remember, I mean, SmartSide is basically, it's somewhat of an open cladded system where water can get in and it's going to make its way out as long as your house is properly flashed and covered with a WRB. It's okay if a little bit of moisture gets back there. It needs to work its way out and be fine. So we're going to do the best we can here, and I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but the one thing I do know is that since we're using SmartSide and it's pretty darn durable, cutting little pieces like this, it's a doable thing. So we're going to find out just how good this turns out, and I don't know. This has been racking my brain since we kind of seen it go up and trying to decide how we're going to side it. So now's the time. Let's cut a piece and see what we can do. 2 3/4. Maybe 2 7/8 would be like the size of hole. All right, so we went ahead and just made a quick little test before we, I guess, do it for real, because I'm not sure about the size. the thing is, I think this is going to be able to come in here like so. I don't like my hole measurement, but that's good because now we can adjust it. And then the hope is we can get another piece. And since this is such a small piece, we're not worried about that gap. We're going to go ahead and do our gap on the side like we're supposed to. And then we're just going to put a bead of caulk, I think, in this, color match it, paint it, and that might be about all we can do. The struggle is going to be potentially, I don't know, it might not be a bad deal, Greg. We might be able to get this in here, but I think we're going to be able to get it. So the thing is, I don't like my cut at all. I don't like the location. I think that the size is okay because we'll have a nice gap around there that we can.
Drop it down a little bit.
I think we need to drop it down that much.
So 9/16.
So
7/16.
if I were kind of lining up on my trim, what do you think? I'm thinking we need to come over this way, or sorry, yeah, we need to move the hole over to like 2 1/16 instead of 2 inches. Wouldn't you say? And then drop it down,
Yeah.
and then drop the cut down 1/8 of an inch or so.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, let's go ahead and cut our real piece and hope it works out. Let's do it. At least we put a brand new, and this is a little bit, wait, what size is this?
3.
Oh, I wish I had a Forstner bit. That would be super clean. This is not as clean, but I think it's going to be fine as long as I take it nice and slow. We just got to get started. Perfect. Okay, here we go. All the marbles. Right there. Okay, something I always do, especially something small finished like this, get your hole started and then flip the piece over. What that's going to do is it's not going to blow out the back. It'll give you a nice clean cut. Okay. So now that's the whole. Greg, where's my little scrap? Just to see if we kind of did what we wanted.
Looks like
We moved it over and we moved it up. Because that's where we were. I think we're good. All right, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to run the multi-tool because even though it's a little bit messier or harder to do a clean cut, since it's a book matched cut and they're going to go together, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be as thin as possible because we don't want to, you know, remove a bunch of material with the chop saw. I don't think we want to. Nah. I'm actually going to start it here and try to get. See how much cleaner that was?
Yeah. I like it. We rotate
No,
it?
just flip it over. Just flip it over. Yeah, I'll just. There.
Now you're going to want to start at the top.
Yep. All right, let's get all these cut edges painted first, and then we can try, see if it fits. Okay. I'm liking that gap as long as when Greg brings his piece over, that's good. So the good thing is if this was like a fiber cement siding or a little tiny piece of vinyl, this would be a real nightmare to be honest. But if this is all good, we'll be able to pop a nail in here. We'll end up doing a face nail down here just to make sure it stays put. And it's not going to bust, it's not going to crack, and it will stay there. So I do like that about SmartSide is how like just durable even the tiniest or the biggest of pieces are. Instantly waterproof, cured sealant, mildew resistant, and paintable. We're going to throw some Lexel right into this. Actually, let's test it first, Greg. Okay, I think your piece is going to be harder than my piece, so you go up. Yeah, right in there. Now go down. In there. Okay? Go ahead and set it in there, can you? Something like that, probably. We might be a little bit off, I don't know.
There, that gap works there.
Because we're gonna have a small gap. It's not perfectly centered. I think we might have moved over just a hair, or it's a little bit off-putting because we had to cut the middle out. I'm not sure. But it's definitely a caulkable joint. So we're just gonna take some seam and flashing tape, and what I wanna do here is basically go over our piece of siding, and then I'm just going to get it tucked in here. So if any moisture comes back, it actually kind of will work its way out over the siding or work its way over to the edge or something. I just don't want it to be continuously able to run behind the siding, you know? It's just a little bit of extra belt and suspenders. I don't think it's a big deal, but it's always worth the extra effort. All right, let's get you exactly where you like it. Then I'm gonna go ahead and get some caulk on this piece. Make sure I like it. All right, get this. Now this little guy here, I don't want to overdo it. I just want enough to create some form of a good seal between the two. And then anything that comes out, we can always paint this. See, so this right here, that'll be a joint or a nail that we'll just go ahead and paint that. And then this will get caulked. Do you want to try to do some color match Sashco caulk for that?
For the top?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say just leave this white for now, Greg, and then we'll get it filled in.
I'm gonna hit that nail, so I don't forget about that nail.
Okay. Yep. You know what? That didn't turn out horrible. I mean, okay, it's not ideal. This is obviously not a great place to have this, but I was worried about getting the piece in there, and ended up not being too bad. It's no big deal. No hill for a climber. Don't be getting paint on my brand new saw. Well, new to me, kind of recently in the last 5 years.
You've had it like for like 5 years.
I don't know. Whatever, dude. Okay. All right, man. Be careful with this. What are we kidding? It's fine. It's smart side. Hey, let me go first. All right, first attempt. Let's see if we did a good cut, Greg. You know? Now, because this is such a tiny piece, we don't have much expansion contraction. We went ahead and cut this bottom pretty darn tight. It doesn't need a huge gap. Greg, what does your gap look like?
I could probably come my way a little bit, I would say. I've got maybe just over an eighth.
What do you see?
Yeah, right in there.
Yep, I like it. I like it a lot. The thing is, we gotta make sure this stays up and money. So we really had like two options here. We talked about just cutting this on both sides, but I think having this consistent shadow line is probably the right move. And now we'll be able to put some face nails right through this and it will look good. Nice. All right, we're on to like between window pieces now, man. The thing is, a lot of times those little tiny pieces can be a real bear, but with the Smart Side, you don't even have to worry about sending a nail through it. It's not gonna crack. Try that with fiber cement, ain't gonna happen. Sorry, don't say, I don't wanna get sued. Fiber cement's probably a great product, we just don't use it. Cameraman, look that way, Michael. There you go, because we don't want anybody to see this this nailer that we're using, because it's kind of
We want them to see it.
yeah, we want them to see, but unfortunately we can't show you guys just yet. But there is a pretty sweet nailer coming to the market, and if you pay attention to the channel, it might be like the first place you see it. And maybe you've already seen it in some other one of my videos where I didn't hide it very well, but okay, look away, I gotta do more nailing. Okay, that's good. We gotta do these sides, and we gotta figure out the bottom here, because at this bottom, we're going to be putting a jam piece, and this is sloped. So since this is sloped, we can't just come in and take a measurement. What I like to do is grab a piece of siding and just use it as a guide. So we're going to set it on here, line it up flush. And then what I'll do is just take my square here, lay it on the concrete. And you can see, maybe you can see, I don't know, it's kind of hard to see. You can see the angle. Well, I already did that right here. I just wanted to show you guys. And that's what we're going to have. Now, this is one of those places where if you follow the rules of the road, you want to have flashing right here between concrete and door jamb. Here's the problem. I've done that, and I've learned that if you gap your flashing and your siding, then you have a gap where things can go into your door. So this is a situation where, let's assume that this concrete holds a lot of moisture, gets into the wood, and it does some damage down here. I think in 10 years, if that's what it is or whatever, this is an easy piece of trim to replace if you had to, versus having a big gap here that air and water and everything else could go into your door. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep it off the ground, maybe an 1/8 inch. We're going to use some good Lexel to seal it off, give it some room to expand and contract, but essentially seal it off, and that is what it is, you know? What do you think, Greg?
I don't have anything else.
You stopped thinking about 1 o'clock?
I'm just thinking about getting done and going disc golfing.
Yeah, I would like to go disc golfing. So we're going to go, this is 95.5. Let's take off an 1/8, and then that's what we'll run this angle right here. So Greg noticed this little gap right here, and that's what he was referring to. Yes, I do want this tight, and this will happen sometimes, especially in a larger opening like this. It's quite simple. I always go to the tight point, take your little bar, if I can get into this material, see how that just tightened right up? And then we're just going to go ahead and pound a shim in here. And this shim will keep this nice and tight. Get that door out of my way. And then nobody's the wiser. This is just a trim. It's nothing structural. And that gives us a nice, clean, tight joint. So one of these other weird details in the garage is down here at the bottom. So because of post frame the way it is, we've had this little scab piece that goes in here. We seal tape the bottom, and we run Lexel here. We've got Lexel filled in here. This is all sloped, but to protect this, to get it kind of air sealed, because this is this is still where air will come through. What we're going to do is just take a piece of Fentrum. I just like this stuff because of the way that it kind of goes on and is applied. But we're going to stick that on here. Make sure it's good and stuck to the concrete. And it's got that little like 1/2 inch bend, like so. So it seals back to the concrete. We're going to go right over that Lexel. Probably not even necessary at this point, but it's good little extra barrier. And then all we're going to do is just make sure that we have this cut back, because we don't want it to be in the way of where our trim is going to go. And then this is what's going to seal across this, and we'll just wrap that under. So I don't know, I think this is a nice clean way to at least get that air and water sealed. We don't want any wind-driven rain or snow or even air going into the garage like that. And now this is ready for a piece of trim right here. And we'll have plenty of meat to kind of get some nails down here. So let's go ahead and install that trim. Okay, so now we got this trim here. You can kind of see we wanted to keep that Fentrum back because we want a nice little 1/4 inch lap. And this is all nice and covered. I think it's about the best way to do it. All right, so this is an accessory that's fairly new for LP SmartSide on the Expert Finish line, and it's kind of like a trim block. And this is kind of a unique one. They have a solid trim block with a built-in flashing, but it's for applications like this specifically where a pipe is already, you know, penetrating your wall. We can do what we did over here and just cut a circle around, but when you don't have to do that, it's a lot nicer. And this block specifically is already pre-cut. So what I have is 2 screws. So we're gonna back these out. This is just some pocket hole screws. Oops, let's not go all the way. Let's keep them in there. And then this has a half lap joint. So it's just got some paint in there, but now this is already pre-done so that what we can do is I'm actually going to screw those back together for now. I'm gonna drill the exact hole I want in the middle, and then I can pull this apart and you'll see I'll be able to trim right around this, and then it's a nice easy way to side, and since it has a nice pre-bent flashing, it's kind of just an easy way to go. So let's go ahead and we'll screw this back. We'll get a hole saw dimension. Looks like we're probably in that 2-inch range. And we'll go ahead and see how this works. This is my first time using the split block. I've only used the solid blocks before. So this is new for me too. Nope, I just want to poke through. I don't want to cut through my table. Okay, Greg, let's give it a try, Greg. Let's see if we can do it. I didn't think we'd be able to put these screws back in. I thought we'd have to leave them out, but let's go ahead and try it. If I line this up, bring it out far enough.
Maybe turn it sideways so I can come at it from the side.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Since you can rotate it all perfect.
Oh, dude, we'll get this. We'll get this. Oh, man, this is great.
Great.
What a great invention. What a nice accessory that LP has come out with.
Look at that.
Yeah, bad, got a little paint, no big deal. Get this lined up right where we like it. It's gonna give us a nice little caulk joint that we'll caulk around. And we also obviously wanna make sure that we're running level. So let me just grab my level here. We'll grab that guy there. Just don't let the camera see it. Yeah. Now a little bit of touch-up paint. That'll dry up, and we'll wait for that to dry up. We'll get some caulk in there when we do all of our caulk, but this is a lot easier to cut your siding around, and it comes with that pre-bent flashing, so I don't know, that's a nice little accessory to have. Well done. I didn't think we'd get to screw it in though. That worked out pretty good.
Yeah, that worked out great.
Kept it nice and tight. All right, go all the way tight your way. Are you tight your way?
No.
No, I mean, I think that looks great. Cuts look good. I'm right on my mark, so let's go ahead and run with that.
You've been running it at
Yeah.
just a hair off.
Yep, that's perfect.
Right in there, I want to say? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So much easier to just mark in place than pull out a tape measure. This guy get flipped around, Greg. I'm gonna grab my measurements. 3 3/8. No, you're doing a good job, man. 3 3/8. I got it. It's pretty durable. Oh! That wind caught me. Ah! let me get this here. You go high. I'll go low. Okay. Do that with a fiber cement. You know what I'm saying? I think if it wasn't windy, I would have had it.
Round one.
Yeah, I know. You guys just letting me do that for a while? Like, we're just gonna let Kyle just.
Honestly, I was just looking at the window. I wasn't even paying attention. Or you go just like the hair off that line.
You're gonna see the line if you look flat. Yep, give us a gap, buddy.
I got it.
Gap us. Okay. Yeah, that's a little better. So what I'm doing here is, because we're gonna have a piece that's gonna be, you know, down to this top of this flashing, there's not gonna be another piece underneath of it to kick it out at the proper angle. So we've taken some shims that are about the right dimension, and we're gonna be spacing these out. I'm not gonna nail them. I'm just gonna tape them right to the wall. Once the siding's on there, this will give it the proper kick out. That's what we're hoping anyway. I'm an optimist, Greg. And they're composite shims, so we don't have to worry about any, you know, potential rot or stuff like that. There. Okay, that'll work.
Close.
So you're saying I was close.
Yeah, you're good enough.
I think that worked out pretty good, don't you, Greg? You doubted it. Which I don't blame you. Okay, we got another box to put here. We're gonna use the same trim box. The nice thing is we can remove this. So what that means for us is that we can use a solid block. We don't have to use that split block, and we'll be able to cut a hole, go right over it, and then put that guy back on. So what I mean by solid versus split is you'll see this one is just a solid block. So the other one is great when you have penetrations that you can't put something around, but this will be pretty darn easy. So is the drill stronger than you?
I'm saying that this what are you doing?
Yeah, good enough for the girls I run with.
I like it.
I like it. We got to do something about this caulk joint though that this plumber did. So before we go ahead and put this block on, make sure we get some good sealant there, and then we'll do another row of sealant around the outside. Greg, can you grab the level? 6-footer. This makes sense, right? Yeah. Got that paint, Greg?
Yeah.
Cool. Now this is super easy to cut inside around, so let's grab a piece, Greg, right behind you. Let's do that. What are the odds this thing turns on right now? It's literally like blowing hot, gaseous, moist air right in my face.
Cancerous air.
No, it's cancer free, dude. We're not in California, so we don't get cancer out here. Do you like it there? Yeah, take it where you like it, man. I got. Okay, guys, so I'm always raving about SmartSide, and this is a nuance that I think everybody should be aware of and a reason that we like to do snap lines. What you'll notice here is that this piece is about 3/8 low from this snap line, but on both ends, it's good. Now, you may be thinking, well, that's because it's sagging. Well, that's not really the case. The SmartSide does not sag much at all because it is quite durable. What's going on is when this stuff is made, it is made in a factory and it comes out at like some stupid low, like 5% moisture. And so the reason that you have to install this with expansion joints, because then when it acclimates over the seasons and gets, I mean, right now we might be sitting at 40, 50% moisture outside. It's going to come into this material and it's going to expand. Not that it's like soaking up water, like it's just acclimating to nature. The same way you put cabinets in the house, let the AC on and get the wood to acclimate. This piece is acclimated on the ends, probably because it was in a pile that was open, and the middle has not yet acclimated. So what happens is we call it like smiling, because as you can see, it's kind of like a smile. And this is where you just, if I would have been smarter, I would have worked it from end to end. But since I have Greg, come in here and just give me a nice push-up. We've got it nailed on both sides. And while you may think, oh, that's kind of like forcing it and it's gonna ruin the product, no, you're just kind of putting it to where it's supposed to be, and as it acclimates, it will be fine. So something to know, that's why we use all these snap lines, because instantly I knew that I had a problem. If I didn't have the snap line, if I was just using a gauge kind of on the ends and nailing it, you can have some of that and then you're gonna see it on your bottom. So the more nails, the better. That way it doesn't move around on you. I just wanted to share that little thing that I've learned over the years of using the SmartSide. So the lesson is keep the product out of moisture, but also if you open it, make sure you close it back up if you're gonna leave it out for a while so that it doesn't do this sort of thing. 88 1/8 tight, 88 1/8. Oh, sorry, dude. My bad. It came out faster than I thought. 148. Go ahead and cut it at 148 1/8. 135 5/8. 135 5/8, man. You want to hop down, get the last cut, send it up. Come on. Come on. The way that just makes it look so good. You can do your best, and then
But sometimes doing your best doesn't matter until you caulk the rest.
something I know you can do, man.
I'm pretty consistent.
Yeah, you are pretty consistent. All right, got another end wall done. Gables are always fun just because you've got all those cuts and angles and it does take some time. Obviously a time lapse is gonna make that a little bit quicker and more enjoyable. But now we're gonna move around to this other side and we're gonna go up above where we couldn't really hit with our ladders. We'll use the mega deck where we can, go around that porch, and this thing is moving along pretty good and looking really nice. Now here's a detail that we did on a past job and I just kind of like the idea of it. And that is, if you've ever done any sort of remodeling, you know that when you tear off a siding on a home, building, it doesn't matter what it is, anytime there is a detail like this where a wall comes in, around a porch, really anywhere, never fails, there's water damage right off a corner. You see it off the corner of windows, you see it off the corner of like wall penetrations like this. And so what we're gonna do is, now this is all sealed, right? This is our WRB. We've got this row of SmartSide. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take some tape, some seal tape. We're just gonna come out here, we're gonna lap over our WeatherLogic. You're never gonna see this because it's going to be underneath the piece below it. And we're just gonna run this out just a little ways. And what this is gonna do is act like a piece of flashing. So if there is water that comes in here behind a failed caulk joint or something, it's going to be able to work right out over the siding. So I think this is a nice, easy, cheap detail that you can do just to help obviously avoid any future problems. So it's one of those things that sometimes we forget about, this spot right here, but I think it's important. Nice, so we are going to caulk this. This will get caulked. But if there were a failure, we have that flashing underneath so that the water doesn't actually damage. I mean, we have the integrated WRB on the panel, so this is gonna protect us a lot. But over time, any product will get damaged with water over time. So this will help allow it to come right out this bottom right here. So I think that's nice. It's a nice one. All right, guys, you know, this house, the siding, it takes a little bit of time. It's hard to fit it all into, you know, 1 or 2 videos. So we're actually gonna end this video here with this time lapse. And video 3 is gonna be all about going around the porches. So we've got some details that we have to do where the siding goes up and over the porch, where we do our gable ends on the porches, and I'll take you guys along for that in the next video. So definitely make sure you're subscribed if you wanna follow along, see how this house turns out, being completed on the exterior. And yeah, I think it's going to be pretty awesome. So definitely stick around for that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Got it? Need that last measurement? Okay. I don't think I've ever seen Ice Age. No. Yeah, just clip. Kind of like Moana and Frozen.
Frozen, I've never seen it.
I've heard it a million times because my kid's in the back seat, but I've never. Well, I better taste. I've never actually watched Frozen. Michael, have you watched Frozen?
I have.
Yeah.